Hello everyone, this is the second in the series of how do we say Yud Gimel Midot Ve'ani Tefilati 3 times when we take out the Torah. It seems like if you say something like that, it looks like it's two gods and you're supposed to tell the person to be quiet, or at the very least, it's the repulsive thing. Not to mention the fact that it looks rather strange, as the famous scene in the famous movie. If you didn't see it, please, this is not a recommendation to go see it. If you did, this will bring back memories.
And Jimmy 2 times, who got that nickname because he said everything twice, like...
I'm gonna go get the papers,
There is a Yerushalmi on that same Gemara about the Shema Shema, the Modim Modim, that says, Ha de amar b'tzibura, aval b'yachet tachanunim hein. Everything we just said is public. But in private, it seems like a good thing. It enhances your supplications from God. What does that mean, private versus public? Sefer Hasidim says, simple. You're saying Shema, you didn't have Kavanah. The halacha is that if you don't have Kavanah for the first verse of Shema, you have to return and say it again. Therefore, a person privately, if he's saying Shema, he didn't have Kavanah in that word, he has to return and say it twice. And that's exactly what the Bach explains. It's only if you say it out loud. But if you say it privately and quietly, then it's not a problem. And that's what the Gemara means in the Yerushalmi. Out loud, no. Privately, yes, because privately maybe you do have very good reasons. Along these lines, similar but a little different, Eliyahu Rabbah on the Shulchan Aruch says that the Gemara in Sukkah talks about during the Simchas Beis HaShoeva and the celebrations of Sukkot, they would say, Anu leka veleka einenu. We are to God, and our eyes are to God, saying God twice within the same breath. And the Gemara indeed picks up and says, this is no good, because it's like the Modim Modim, the Shema Shema precedent, which is forbidden, says the Eliyahu Rabbah. That's because they said it as a shir v'shevach. But if you say it for better kavanah, then it's okay to say it twice privately. A second perush is Rabbeinu Yonah. What this basically means is the opposite of the way the Sefer Hasidim and the Bach said it. They said in private, yes. In public, no. He says the opposite. In public, it's not a problem. You're in a shul, you're all monotheistic, therefore, publicly fine, privately a problem. And indeed, because that is his point of view, the Beis Yosef says, I don't understand. I read the Yerushalmi. It seems to me the Yerushalmi says opposite. But again, the Yerushalmi didn't explain itself. It just said private versus public. He took it this way. The Sefer Hasidim took it the other way. But the Beis Yosef brings a different perush. He says maybe what Rabbeinu Yonah means is Keshe'omer oto yochid bet tzibur. Ava keshekahal kulom rimoto lekalamecha shlamidei. When the Gemara says private versus public, it means you privately within a minyan say it, that's a problem. But when everyone says it together, it's not a problem. However, even though this Yerushalmi said what he said, comes along the Torah and says that the Yerushalmi, we're Jews that paskin like the Bavli, and in the Bavli we have absolutely no evidence of a difference between private and public, and therefore he says, En lechalek b'gemara didant, eno mechalek. In our Gemara, there's no difference, and therefore the halacha is that you should not say anything twice, even if you dive in privately and no one hears you. That's what the Bach says, that he personally disagrees with the Shulchan Aruch, but the Shulchan Aruch was clear. He said you can't say Shema Yisrael twice, as they say in Slichos, which is in public. Not to mention, he doesn't bring any dispensation for private. And based on the Gemara in Sukkah that I just mentioned that says, how did they say, Anu leka ve'leka hinenu? Comes the Magen Avraham and says, from here we learn it's a problem. And even when everyone says it together, it's a problem. And I'm not sure how the Bach didn't see this Gemara. And indeed, based on this, it's a problem. So if it's a problem, how do we say Vani Tefilati and Yud Gimel Midot 3 times? And there happens to be 4 different answers. Yes, and number 1 is Rav Soloveitchik, who says, not a good idea. Say it once, Nefesh Harav, Rav Shechter brings, B'sha'at Otzat Sefer Torah b'Yom Tov, Haya minhag Rabbeinu lomar Yud Gimel Midot rak pa'am achat. Simple. Answer number 2. Rav Zion Ethlinger from Germany brings his son-in-law, Rav Yosef Isaacson, if I'm pronouncing his name right, who came along and said that the only problem is going to be what the Gemara said. Modim and Shema, those 2 examples. Anything else, you could say twice. Rav Ethlinger is not good with that, simply because the reason the Gemara gives is it looks like you're saying it to 2 gods. Well, Hashem kel rachum v'chanun. If you say that same passage twice, or va'ani tefilati lecha Hashem, it looks like you're saying it to 2 gods. So what does it make a difference if the words are modim or the words are shema? It still looks like you're saying it to 2 gods. The Binyan Sion, however, brings his own answer. And answer number 3 is, it's based on the Rabbeinu Yonah and the Bach. Rabbeinu Yonah and the Bach said if you say it publicly, it's not a problem. We only say it publicly in shul when we take out the Sefer Torah, because the Sefer Torah is only read in a minyan, and therefore it's not a problem. And finally, Rav Ethlinger brings, the problem is only if you say it as a tefillah and as a tchina, as a supplication, or as a prayer. Lo kain, bekoreh psukei Torah v'ktuvim. If you just say the psukim from the Tanakh, you could say it 5 times. And what's his proof? A halacha that every one of us should keep every week. If indeed there was a Parshat Shavua this week, and it's not Shabbos Chol HaMoed, you're supposed to read Shnayim Mikra Ve'echad Targum, each pasuk twice, and the explanation. Comes along the Ari and says the way to do it is to say every pasuk twice first, and then say the explanation. Well, you're saying psukim twice. Answers the Binyan Sion, as you could see. We can deduce from here, it's not a problem if you say it as psukim and not as a tefillah. Well, when we open the ark, we say many psukim. Vayihi bin Soa Aharon is a pasuk from Parshat B'Ha'alotcha. Not to mention Ki Mitzion Teitzei Torah, psukim from the Nevi'im. So we add a few more psukim. It's not a tchina, it's not a bakasha, and therefore it's okay to say it twice. Maybe the nafkamina would be that you could say it privately without a minyan. Usually we say Yud Gimel Midot. If it's said as part of Slichos, you can't say it without a minyan. But if you say it Kekoreh B'Torah with the trup, it's okay to say it even if you're saying Slichos. Says Rav Ethlinger, it must be that when it was put into the machzor in the siddur, it was put in as verses and not as a tefillah. So to sum up, it's minhag Yisrael to say it 3 times, and even the Rav Soloveitchik discouraged it. There's 3 possible answers. Number 1, maybe the whole problem of the Gemara is in Shema and Modim only. Seems a little shaky. Number 2, it could very well be that in public, in a minyan, it's not a problem as per Rabbeinu Yonah and the Bach. And number 3, it may not be a problem if you say it as psukim and not as a tefillah. Just like when you're learning Torah, you can repeat the same pasuk as many times as you